Hey, it's Manny, and I'm going to be presenting Roles and Societal Expectations from me and Cedric. Explain the main idea of the article discussed in class, then provide an example of an important fact you found interesting. So what me and Cedric said was that the main idea of the article was showing the history of black women in America. An important fact that me and Cedric found interesting was that 35.4% of married black women and 73.3% of single black women were in the labor force, compared with only 7.3% of married women, white women, and 23% of single women, white women. Mention one piece of information from your notes on the slide show. Women in America class slides that you found surprising/interesting and explain why. One thing we found surprising was the statistics for women with a college degree. In 1957, it was 5.8%, and in 2018, it was 35.3%. This was surprising because we assumed there were more than 36% of women with a college degree. Okay, so what we said was Rose is Troy's wife and mother to Corey. She's 10 years younger than Troy, and she basically depends on Troy now they have a family. She's always there to support Troy and keep him in check. Explain what assumptions are. Then list some assumptions that Troy makes about Rose. Assumptions are things you make about people that may be true, but there's no proof to show yet. Basically made off an inference. Some assumptions that Troy makes about Rose are that Rose is always trying to get him because she's keeping him in check, but that's not the case. How do gender roles in the late 50s impact the communication between Rose and Troy? Gender roles in 50s impacts the communication between Troy and Rose because they are both poor and women back then are treated poorly by men. Rose is like the person in the house who does the main work for everyone. The other day in class, we saw a video of how women were treated back then in the 50s. And there was this one video Miss B showed us, and it was about these three men who treated these two women very pervertedly. And I can only imagine how women were treated like back then, and it was very awful. But this is what Rose had to deal with back then, and it was, of course, very, very hard for her. Do you think Rose's gender role influences the way she acts towards Troy? Explain why not? So, Rose's gender role does influence the way she acts towards Troy because she gets frustrated with him most of the times, and that is because she is stressing so much. She's the one who usually does most of the work in the house and deals with a lot outside of the house. This goes back to the other slide 7, about how hard life is for Rose and basically women back then, because back then in the 50s, it's very difficult.